So you might be curious as to what a combat fit NSF's lives looks like. I'm sorry, I'm not actually a combatant. I'm actually just an admin support assistant in the army. Even though I've had some interesting experience as the personal assistant to a general, and also I was in intelligence for a while, so that was kind of interesting. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. Today, I'll just be showing a day in my life as an NSF and talking about things I wish I knew before I enlisted. Anyways, I'm Gaius, a Singaporean in my second year of national service, waiting to study in the National University of Singapore in 2021. That alarm means it's almost time to go to camp. And anyways, my time in service is almost coming to an end, which is why I decided to make this video to document my experiences, so hopefully one day I'll be able to look back on it, perhaps in a more positive light. So I can't really show what I do in camp because filming isn't allowed, so I'm just going to go over my average day briefly without really discussing any of my work. Usually when I arrive at camp, I sign a book-in book-out book to mark my attendance, then I proceed to do work on my computer. I do discipline-related administrative work, but I'm not going to talk much about it. I think most NSFs actually stay in camp for the camp I'm currently in, but as I posted into this camp during the pandemic, I've never had that experience. Before that, I was from Intel and I was at MINDEF HQ, both of which don't have any stay in requirements, so I stayed out my entire NS life. Around 11:30 a.m., I tend to go for an early lunch break at the canteen. There's also a cookhouse with free food, but the food is pretty grim, so I don't really eat there. After lunch, I go back to the office and continue working. If the work is done, I'll usually read an ebook or nap discreetly because resting is viewed as malingering in my office. For some reason. Anyways, it ironically encourages us to malinger and be less efficient with our work, because if we're not doing work, we're perceived as slackers, so we must do our work slower so that, our superiors will look at us and see, oh, okay, they're still doing work. Anyways, around 4:30 I go for roll call, which is basically attendance taking, and then I sign the book and then I leave my camp around 6:30. Okay, so another thing that I forgot to mention is that sometimes I do go for a run, and I also write this thing I call my daily pages, and that kind of allows me to focus and have a more meaningful day. Okay, so I just got back from camp and I took a nap. I'm back very early today because I took half day leave, which means I get to go home after lunch. Um, I didn't film any of it because I thought it was very boring. Like, why would you want to see a guy walk to the toilet and then after that, come back with his clothes changed and then taking a nap? Anyways, right now because of the pandemic, we are cohorted, which means that we go to work on alternate days. The arrangement kind of varies from camp to camp, but that's how it is for my camp. We also wear masks, and we would actually get fined $300 or something like that if we don't wear it, and that there might be additional consequences for repeat offenders. So it's being taken reasonably seriously, even though it's questionable whether or not enforcement is fair across the board. Um, so I wanted to talk a bit more about NS now. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is um, dealing with superiors and how to stay positive. So I've had a lot of grievances with national service, and honestly, I think it's more or less shared by all of my friends. I'm not the only one who has this sort of issue. Or if you notice me glancing to the side, it's because I have a script on the screen. I'm not at the level where I'm able to just talk to the camera and have my thoughts come out coherently yet. Um, a lot of the times, as an NSF, you are really treated like a statistic rather than an individual. There's a really famous email that encapsulates how most NSFs feel very well. I'll link it in my bio. I think it's published somewhere online. Mm, it's really not like uncommon for servicemen to share these sort of sentiments because of how you're treated in day-to-day life. Of course, I have to point out this experience isn't the same across the board. It really differs based on your individual superior. I've had amazing superiors at MINDEF HQ, so I have to admit that what I'm experiencing now is not always the case. But the fact is, the SAF does promote a culture whereby NSFs are treated largely as disposable, and it causes in like a lot of distress, especially those with mental issues, and especially so if you have superiors like mine. So what I want to suggest is a few ways I think you can deal with it better. First of all, I highly recommend reading the book Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. I think that book is one of the books that influenced my perspectives a lot. The other book I would recommend is The Obstacle is the Way by the same author. Um, I think firstly, it's important to not let your self-worth get tied up with your rank and your status in the SAF, especially if you're a non-combat personnel like me. Um, the validations and ranks given by the SAF are usually heavily emphasized by your superiors. Sorry, I'll repeat that again, I guess. Like I was saying, the validations and ranks given by the SAF are usually heavily emphasized by them in order to like try to tie it to your self-worth. They want you to feel like only by achieving something within the army are you will that make you somebody. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm kind of tired. I just woke up. But the reality is that it isn't something that should matter to you. The moment you don't need your superior's validation to feel good about yourself, NS becomes a lot more enjoyable. Of course, it's easier said than done. I know many NSFs still value recognition, despite them verbally saying that they don't really care. Um, yeah. So another suggestion I would have is to focus on doing things that bring long-term value to your life. So kind of try to do stuff outside of NS, or perhaps even in camp, that add value to you long term. Um, I think there's actually a lot of ways that you can make your NS life more productive. And even though NS places constraints on you, I think that sometimes having constraints placed on you will in fact make you more creative, which results in a better outcome. For instance, if you were given access to everything that, well, I think first of all, I would like to say that having a time constraint placed on me actually made me more productive because realizing that so much of my time is being taken up by NS, it made me become very creative with how I batch my tasks together so that I was able to achieve more in a shorter amount of time. But I think I'll talk more about that tomorrow because my girlfriend's coming over right now and I think she's actually here. I just heard the gate open. So yeah, bye. Well, fun fact, I've decided to make making YouTube videos one of the things I do consistently from now on. So I actually invested like $300 and got this Tascam DL. Is it D10LR? I'm not very sure, but it's a lavalier microphone, which will allow me to kind of pick up audio while moving around. So I won't be stuck in front of my camera in my room because I think this is the only microphone I have right now. I don't have a shotgun mic or anything. So yeah, this will allow me to make videos while moving around. And since I've made the financial commitment, I'm going to be making more videos from now on. Anyways, it's morning now and I'm work from home. Usually there's not much I have to do because I don't really have a work from home setup for the army. Most of my work is done on the intranet within the army, so there's really not much I can talk about and there's also not much I can do from home. So it's basically a rest day for me, except I can't leave my house. So yeah, um, sometimes I think there's a list of activities I'm allowed to request. I'm allowed to do leave my house to do with permission. So one of it is getting food. The other is cutting my hair because keeping your hair neat is one of the things that the army emphasizes a lot. But that's beside the point. What I really want to talk about today is some things you can do to try and make your NS life more productive. So the first thing I have on my list is introspection, because I think that NS is the best thing about NS is that it actually pauses your life. So it's like this giant pause button on your life, and I think one of the best ways to take advantage of that is to use the time to figure out what you actually want to do in life. It's pretty difficult, and it took me a long time, about 1 year in, before I roughly knew what I wanted to do with my life. Um, yeah, so one of the things I wanted to do is read more. And after I read a lot, I started writing journals. And after I wrote journals, I figured, why don't I become some sort of blogger? And then after that, it gradually transitioned into the idea of making YouTube videos. After the influence of some YouTubers I watched, like Ali Abdal and Daniel Tamago. So yeah, that's one of the things I did during NS. I figured out what I wanted to do with my life. Of course, this isn't the main thing I figured out. Actually, what I really figured out is what sort of career path I wanted to pursue. So initially, I was going to take literature in the National University of Singapore, but I've decided to take economics because of my interest in finance and investing. I might even choose. Okay, this I'm not sure about, but I might even try to pursue a double degree in year two of NUS. Uh, I think another very valuable skill to pick up during your NS life is personal finance. I wouldn't really call it a skill, but it's more like having personal finance knowledge in general. One of the largest problems Singaporeans face is the inability to budget and save their money. I think mathematically speaking, it's really possible for most Singaporeans to retire before 40, especially if you're like a university graduate and stuff like that. I think about half of Singaporeans from my generation will be university graduates. So I think the vast majority of us technically have the financial capability to retire early. However, we don't due to poor financial planning. So learning about exchange traded funds, robo advisors, savings plans, high interest savings accounts, and if you're interested, you can even learn how to stock pick. So like read balance sheets, how to do value investing, or perhaps investing in innovation. I think there's an investor called Kathy Underwood. She's quite famous for that. So you can spend your NS time learning these things, and it will greatly benefit you in future. So that's what I meant by doing things that add value to your life long term while you're in NS. And it's one of the things I encourage all of my understudies to try out. Another skill you could consider learning, and it's just an example, not everyone needs to be a coder. I read an article about it recently, and it convinced me that perhaps coding isn't necessarily for me, but you could learn coding while in NS. And the last thing on my list is preparing for university. So researching the courses. You might even want to change faculty sometimes after doing some research. I think it's good to research scholarships, internships, and programs, and what sort of modules you want to take. Yeah, all of these things are valuable information that most people don't know about until they've entered university. But if you know about it in advance, you can plan your academic career, academic path, academic journey much better, I think. All of that said, a lot of what I do now is influenced by a YouTuber named Ali Abdal. He makes the case that whatever you are doing in life, you should be putting yourself out there in some form, and that led to me starting this channel. Seeing him run a YouTube channel while also being a full-time doctor really made me realize I had no excuse to not be doing something while in NS as well. So yeah, big thanks to him for changing my mindset. And yeah, I think if I keep deferring all of my life plans, I'll never actually start. Tim Ferriss has a very good quote on this, but I don't think I remember it offhand. Maybe I wrote it down. Okay, I didn't. Anyways, I doubt anyone's going to see this video, but if you like this video, do let me know um so that I know. I don't really know what sort of YouTube videos I'm going to do now, but I think it'll be mostly about stuff I've learned and read about. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section below. I realized that this video wasn't very comprehensive, and it's also very rushed and very poorly done, because after all, it's my first video, and it's the first time I'm trying to make a video seriously. I, I I'm quite sure it's incredibly messy, but I'm trying my best. So, I'm committed to doing this long term. Yeah, so hopefully my videos improve over time. Yeah,